Welcome to Life Her Podcast, the podcast that guides you from the 9-to-5 grind to the freedom of your own path. Discover how to conquer life's challenges while pursuing your passions with unwavering faith. Because being an entrepreneur is not easy. So let's get to it. Hello, everyone. I am Yvette Lloyd, host of Life Her Podcast. I have the honor to interview a welcoming and truly inspiring guest, Hanna Olivas. And she is so amazing. Hanna is a powerhouse of chief branding officer and a Rises Studio podcaster doing amazing things behind FENIX TV. Her journey is one of the incredible resilience and determination after receiving a terminal diagnosis of multiple myeloma. Hannah made a courageous decision of not letting illness define her life, instead of turned her diagnosis into a mission to uplift and empower women across the globe. Hannah is such an amazing woman, and I am excited to have her tonight. She has been featured in multiple shows such as Today's Show, Tamron Hall Show, and People Magazine. And Hannah is getting word out there, and I really appreciate her so much for doing such, because we never know who's going through something. And Hannah is the voice of many women and whomever else is dealing with this battle. So today we have Hannah. Hi, Hannah. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Thank you. I am doing good. So I am so happy to have you tonight. And first and foremost, I want to basically pray for you and everything, and just send you so much encouragement and love your way. And I thank you so much for being on my show.
Well, thank you. Prayers are always appreciated. I pray. I'm a huge prayer. It's very appreciated.
You're welcome. So, can you share your initial reaction when you were diagnosed with multiple myeloma and how it shaped your outlook in life and work?
So, my initial reaction was more, shock. I mean, we really weren't understanding what it meant, because it's not something that we had ever heard of. I think it was more just it was kind of a surreal moment. I felt a little disconnected. It took me a second to really grasp the words "you have cancer" and the type of cancer I have. We knew something was wrong. We just didn't expect that. So it was definitely an eye-opening experience. Because after they explained what I had, then we talked about how long do I have? And
Mm.
that was definitely not something that I was prepared to even hear. Um, I'm a mom, wife, and I just wasn't ready to hear, you have a year. And that's what I was told initially. So life looked very different. I went into rush mode of all the things I wanted to hurry up and do before I'm no longer able to do them. So I think it was kind of fear, um, you a little bit of shock, not are we sure, lots of tears.
Yeah, I bet. Wow. So I also saw that in 2017 you were pregnant with a baby boy, and I want to say so sorry for your loss
Thank
and the things that you were going through in that process. And also 6 months after you lost him, you were going through a lot of medical conditions, and no one couldn't tell you exactly what was wrong with you. Can you explain how the lack of knowledge and the lack of sympathy and everything that you did not receive during that process of you trying to figure out what was wrong with you?
Well, initially, a lot of, the doctors kept saying, there's nothing wrong with you other than, I was grieving. And so the symptoms that I kept sharing that I was feeling and the hard pregnancy that I had, They kept saying, you know, it's stress related, it's mental health issues. One doctor thought I had lupus and wanted to treat me as a lupus patient. So once we figured out what was really happening, it was a little shocking, honestly, how I had to go through the medical system and actually go through 4 different doctors before my primary doctor said, you need to go to a hematologist and I'm going to get you there. And as soon as they ran the deeper blood work, those panels that they weren't going to run, that's when they discovered, okay, so something is wrong with her. This isn't a mental health issue. This is a real physical issue. I mean, I walked around in pain for months, just feeling like my bones were on fire. I felt so fatigued. I was having trouble breathing. I was severely anemic, and there was a lot of different things going on. And so once we kind of had a suspicion of what it was, they immediately sent me to Mayo Clinic. I went to Mayo Clinic, and within 2 days, bone marrow biopsy scans, PET scans, and we had an answer.
Wow.
So, and you know, they won't say that that's the reason why I lost Mario, but I believe wholeheartedly that there was something going on during the pregnancy, and it just finally, because I had a troublesome pregnancy, he would have been our miracle baby anyway. I was already a little older to be having kids. And so, you know, I carried him almost full term. I was 8.5 months pregnant, and then we lost him. But I really feel that I was definitely, you know, it was already happening. It's just that no one would listen to what I was saying. And finally, you know, the doctor that you wouldn't think would jump in and say, hey, you know what, we need to do a deeper dive. Let's get you into hematology. Next step, oncology. And then once the diagnosis was confirmed, that's when everything honestly changed. It was just a whole life looks so different now.
Wow. So you turned your diagnosis into a mission to inspire other women. What has been the most fulfilling part of this journey so far?
I would have to say just one, I thought I was alone. You know, it's so rare for someone like me to have that type of a diagnosis and just the extenuating circumstances that I went to. So I really felt alone. And you know, there were support groups I was looking for, but they were men. And I didn't want to talk about some of the symptoms as a woman that I was experiencing, you know. So when I started to share my story and other women started coming forward sharing that they had it too, you know, and how they had found the right doctors, how they learned how to advocate for themselves, that's when I knew that I wasn't alone. So I found support. And then I saw also a need for more of that kind of support. I wanted to help others who were like me, who, you know, healthcare specialists, they don't want to hear us. They just want to keep their face down to the paper and write the notes, but they don't want to do the digging.
Right.
And so I opened a nonprofit in hopes of supporting others like me, but in all honesty, it was still me receiving the support from people sharing their journey with me, uplifting me. You know, this community started to build, but more and more I saw it was mainly women who were going through a lot of this. And so I would say one of my biggest things that has blessed me is just the incredible women and men too that I've met in the journey. Becoming a part of that community who serves, you know, for multiple myeloma. I've seen a lot of people pass away too. So
Wow.
it's been very hard. Like I made really good friends. And I've lost some really good friends too through the disease, you know. So it's been a lot of beauty, but it's also been a lot of hardship. So when I
Wow.
see women to share their voice, I'm like, you have to. That's all we have, you know, is their voice.
Yeah, that is so true. So when you weren't receiving the help that you wanted, like, what were the feelings that you had even just behind the scenes of knowing you've been diagnosed with something and then at the same time you didn't know beforehand what was exactly wrong with you? Because a lot of people don't understand the way you show up isn't the way you feel behind the scenes sometimes, and your strength usually takes over in front of the world. But could you be a little bit more vulnerable and let us know exactly how you were feeling? Because it's important for other people to know so that they know that they aren't alone as well, just the same way that you felt.
You know, it's kind of funny that you asked me this question today because, in addition to the myeloma that I've been fighting, I just found out 2 weeks ago that I have stage 1 breast cancer.
Oh
So,
my god.
talk about a double whammy. And what I feel, what I felt, and what I feel is it comes in waves: anger, you know, the fear of all the what ifs. I'm super close to my kids, my husband, my grandkids. And one of the biggest things that I've had to do is, you know, in my head, protect them. Even though I'm the one that's sick, I don't want to break down in front of them because I'm the glue, you know?
Right.
So, I mean, I've had days where I'm in the closet crying, hiding
Wow.
because I don't want them to see me like that because then it brings them down. And so
Right.
I feel like, you know, as the patient, as the person who's going through it, I've still had to be the protector of my family. So I go through these, you know, I'm a human being. I go through the fear, I go through the anger, I go through the why me? I'm a good
Right.
person. I've done
Right.
the bargaining, you know, please cure me. If you cure me, I'll do this. I mean, I've done it all. And the reality is there came a time, you know, I went through a major depression. um, Through the whole thing, I needed to go seek help. I had to go see a psychologist, see a psychiatrist, see a therapist. I see a therapist weekly, because the diagnosis, I spent like the first 2 years just sharing my story, and all I was
Mhm.
talking about was my death. I wasn't talking about my how I was going to live. And
Right.
so I kind of had to pump the brakes and say, hey, you know, I want to share my story. I want to help others. But if you want me to share it, let me tell you how I'm living, not how I plan to die, you know? So it's definitely been a mental and emotional roller coaster as well as physical. I mean,
Right.
you know, chemo's not easy. They pump you up with steroids, give you all these medicines. Weight is up and down. And as a woman, you know, losing your hair, gaining weight, losing weight, you know, I started to suffer from like just not feeling myself anymore, seeing the like looking at pictures, you know, from 10 years ago. Like I always would say, where is that girl? Where's her smile? Where did she go?
Mhm.
But the reality is, she doesn't exist anymore. So I
Wow.
had to find the new me, and it's hard,
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah. You know, a lot of people, it's grief comes in different forms. You could like losing someone or the things that you're going through now, or like breakup, friendship, boyfriend, or whatever. But it's like you're in a grieving phase, and
Mhm.
you do have to understand who the new you is. And some people don't realize that once you dealt with so much and battling so much in life, you change. You change
Mhm.
drastically, and that change come with you trying to figure out who you are all over again, because it's like, okay, I need to develop a whole new person It's like you creating a own cartoon character or something, and just trying to make way to figure out that happiness and everything. I know one thing I want to tell you, I want you to enjoy life. Enjoy every moment, take plenty of pictures, record different videos, just do different things like that to even just create memories for yourself and also your family is so important.
Oh, I do. I'm like they're like, "Really, mom?" Because I'm always with the camera and I'm like, "You guys are gonna want these. Like, trust me. These are moments that we want to hang on to." And it's funny that you say like like we were talking about, it's I said it. I wrote about it, reinventing Hannah. Who is Hannah
Yeah,
now? I just turned 50 last month, and I was so excited for my 50th birthday because I'm still here. Like, I wasn't even sure if I should plan for my 50th birthday. I was afraid to make future plans. And
right.
so 50 was such a big monumental moment for me, and everybody's like, "Why are you excited about turning 50?" And I'm like, "Because I'm still here. I'm still walking
Right.
around. I'm still alive. I'm still breathing. I'm still seeing my kids, my grandkids, my husband." Um, and it's a gift. I think when a lot of people think like they have all this time,
Right.
and
Yes.
really the reality is we don't know, right? So I had to start intentionally living and not existing anymore. I think I was in existence mode for so long. And it saddens me that it took a diagnosis like this to really open my eyes. I wish I had, if you know what you know and you know what you
Yes.
don't, you know.
Yes.
So it's different now, you know.
It
These,
is. It is.
but
And with you saying that too, I lost my mom and husband within a year.
mm,
And it changed me and created me to want to live life more, cherish my moments and everything. And a lot of times things won't hit you until it hits you on a personal level. And sometimes it'd be frustrating when people that's surrounding you really don't understand. And you just like, okay, you're gonna have your moment one day and you're
yeah.
gonna feel just the way I feel. And the frustrations is there, but at the same time, it's like we have to understand them too.
We do. One of the things that I, since this diagnosis process started, really since I lost Mario, is um, like life's too short to fight, to argue,
Yes.
and that's one of my biggest things with like the women empowerment space. Why I do what I do. Women are so famous for tipping someone else's crown, another woman's crown. There is
Yes.
such a competitive force. And if women only understood how powerful they are, how powerful we are, the gifts and talents, the uniqueness about ourselves, we wouldn't do it. And, I found in the space that I work in, women often are jealous, they feel threatened, they want to compete. And honestly, there's no need for it.
No.
We're here to uplift one another. We need to have servitude hearts, a servitude mentality, and really understand that all of us have a certain amount of time, and we better make the best of it. And making the
Mhm.
best of it is not drama, gossip, competing against each other in that ugly way. In business and life in general. I mean, I want to compete with myself to be a better version of myself. But in the empowerment space and the work that I do, even in the nonprofit sector, you know, people,
Yeah.
they, unless you're walking through something like this, you're right, they don't understand it. And so we have to give them grace,
Yeah, we do.
you
You know
know.
we don't want to.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard enough to be hurting and going through what you're going through, but then,
Yeah.
the person on the other side, it needs your grace. It is. It's kind
Mhm.
of That's why we're Wonder Women.
Yes.
We're strong, we make people wonder how we do it.
Yes, seriously. That is so true. So, you have a podcast called She Rises Studios podcast. Could you share with how you uplift and empower entrepreneurs, and what impact have you seen so far since you having your podcast show?
Well, the podcast came from one of those moments of, why me? Why is this happening? What am I going to do? And I was in the shower one day, I was crying, and I kept hearing this: she rises, she leads, she lives. She rises, she leads, she lives. Like, there was like this moment, and I know it was divine intervention, because the things that were going through my mind, I think that was one of my most darkest moments. So, She Rises, the podcast was kind of birthed from pain, in all honesty.
Yeah.
It was a way to get stuff out. And when we had our first episode, because when we first started, I did it with my oldest daughter. And,
Okay.
people would listen and they would say, "Oh, that was so good." And we're like, "Really? We don't know what we're doing."
Oh.
So we're just having a conversation with a microphone in front of us. I mean, and then the pandemic hit, and we started bringing on women talking about, how is this pandemic affecting you? What are some
Right.
of the fears you're going through? Next thing you know, like, women's voice, like, they're like, we want to talk about this. How did the
Yeah.
pandemic affect marriages, their kids, their business, their livelihood, their health, like all these different things, right? Because no one in the world escaped the pandemic. I don't care who it is and where you
Yeah.
were. You
Seriously.
were hunkering down somewhere, praying you didn't get, that yucky.
Yes.
So we started to really grow the podcast, and it went from um, the day-to-day woman, but I always say the ordinary women doing extraordinary things, because these women that were coming on were doing extraordinary things, like serving in their communities, helping other business owners. Like, it was all these different things, even yoga outside in the park, because we had to be away from each other, right? So it turned into this really amazing podcast of empowerment, raw, real, authentic. Like, it wasn't the foo-foo stuff,
Mhm.
where we went on and tried to make life seem like it's perfect, because anybody who owns a business, we know it's not perfect, right? Anyone who
Mhm.
does a podcast, it's not perfect. So
Yes.
I think we've done to date a little over 300 podcasts. But one thing that I always hear is how they love sharing their story. There's passion
Wow.
in a person's story. You
It
know,
is.
uh, we all have a voice. So I think of our podcast as, I mean, I'm not a licensed therapist, but I find it educational. I find it elevating, celebrating. We celebrate on it, so it's amazing. It's like your podcast. You're bringing the real deal. You're not trying to fluff it up and make it perfect. You're being
Yeah.
realistic. And we need more
Yes.
of those types of podcasts. Not,
Yes.
how can you make 6 figures in 6 days? Um, let's talk like deep, real stuff that we go through as women,
Yes.
So that's empowering.
Thank you. Thank you. It's so needed because I think it's so important for us to be our authentic selves and just show up the way who we are. It creates so much more reality, comfortability, and people that's really like trying to change and be uplifted and inspired. I feel like it's more of an impact for them instead
Mhm.
of looking for such of a perfection in so many people, because it's already people struggling in their personal lives trying to look perfect like how these people perceive themselves on social media, and behind the scenes they're really not that person. You're just showing up like that. So I just make sure I just show up as me, and I want my guests to do the same because like who else gonna do it?
That's right. That's very true. I think I wish women would stop portraying the perfection and really portray the authenticity and the progression, like what life really
Right,
looks like. You know, social
right.
media is it's it can be beautiful, but it can be messy.
Yeah.
And the messy is when we as women disempower other women by displaying perfection when it doesn't exist.
Yes.
It's
Yeah. It doesn't. It doesn't, and I don't wanna show up as though I'm not having any personal issues in my life, you know, because 'Cause
mhm.
we're all going through something. It's okay to be vulnerable and still have a safe space for yourself too. At the same time, it's just you only expose so much, but you could expose enough for a person to get it and feel
Mhm.
inspired and just love everything about you only and the people that you are with. So I find it very important, and I'm so happy that you're doing it as well on your podcast show because we got to show up, girl.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
We definitely do. So, I want to talk about the FENIX TV. It's an innovative streaming platform. What inspired you to create it, and how do you see it impacting women and entrepreneurs nation and worldwide, technically?
Oh, yes. So Phoenix TV, my daughter, she said we need another platform for women to really show up and show out, shine through. You know, we have a publishing company, we have our podcast, we have our public relations, but we really wanted another platform to amplify women. But Phoenix TV honestly was designed for both men and women,
Okay.
to be able to have that space where they could come on in the entrepreneurial space, in the sports, music. It's really a diverse platform. It's a lot of fun. We're in 127 countries. We get to cover some really cool award shows and be a part of a lot of things. But where I see it going is I believe that we are a very diverse platform, which I love.
That's
I
great.
love that we're so open to so many things. There's no political yet like that hatred that's existing right now. It
Yes.
doesn't exist on Phoenix TV because we don't allow it. You know, that platform is meant to uplift, to educate, celebrate, to entertain. So I see it. You know, our growth has been substantial over the last year and a few months since we launched it, and we just grew even more. We actually switched to a new platform because we grew so fast. So
Wow.
it's amazing. It's honestly, if you would have asked me 7 years ago if any of this was in the horizon, I would have told you no, because that's not even my background. So I
Wow.
feel like everything just kind of happens for a reason. So maybe I would say look out Netflix. I don't know.
I know that's right. You better say it, Hannah.
Um, no, we want to be that platform that brings back that real connection. Like people who are in the entertainment, film, radio, all of that, like there was like this disconnect, and we want to bring it back. And we want to
Yeah.
give that platform to anyone who wants to utilize it for good, impact for good. That's the best way I could sum it up.
That is amazing, Hannah, because I'm a, I have some few platforms reached out to me, but it's just certain things that you look for. And I'm just like on a positive path when it comes to inspiring and uplifting people because when I was growing up, I had a lot of positivity that I've watched on
Mhm.
TV. And a lot of people don't realize how much positivity will impact your personal life. and instead of you watching something negative all the time, that's a lot of tension on your body, and it affects your health. It affects your mindset. It affects your mental health, your spirituality. It affects a lot of things that you feel like is unintentionally doing it, but it's doing it. So it's just, I just want to have always like a healthy path. And I'm glad that you are that way too, because it helps a lot with your life. It gives you life. It's like a CPR for yourself to
Yeah,
actually
it is.
do it.
It
Yes.
is. We met some really amazing people over the FENIX TV journey, for sure. I mean, some of the most incredibly talented, even kids. Like,
Aw.
we hosted a kids show with two sisters. They're coming back. It's called Why Wait, Be Amazing Now,
Mhm.
where these sisters are authors, entrepreneurs, and they're showing other kids like you don't have to wait to be a grown up to be amazing. You can be amazing now. You can be a business
Yeah.
owner now. You can do whatever you want right now. So I've seen this switch in how the platform has really elevated that connection. We need that.
Yes.
Celebrities are amazing. They are. There's some that are just, they're so good at what they do, and they can influence for good. Right. And so that's what I want
Mhm.
FENIX TV to do is influence for good, impact for good. So I'm really hoping over the next few years we bring that connection back.
Yeah.
And we're like we pave the way, and we allow these young adults, or say it's an 80-year-old woman who decides she wants to be the next show host. Why not?
Yeah.
Age is right.
Yes.
Or like the different cultures that exist in the world. Why can't they come on FENIX TV or even some of the other networks? Like we should be open arms so we can learn about each other. I know that's how the world's meant to be. I know it's not like that right now, but I think
Right.
FENIX TV will definitely be a game changer.
Oh yeah. That's a great start. So you've been featured on major media outlets like the Today Show and People Magazine. How has that exposure influenced your mission and your reach?
Well, I mean, it definitely for reach, it did a lot. I remember when we did the People magazine feature. We did it in two parts. Um, they came to Las Vegas, took over my home.
Oh,
Um, it was very scary, to be honest, because again, I was talking about my death. My family was exposed. They wanted that raw honesty, which is where we were at.
yeah.
Raw as could be. It was fresh. And so I think it helped elevate a lot of things, but it also became very heavy because
Mhm.
all I did was advocate for um, medical aid in dying, talking about my death, and then I had the New York Post. I'll never forget this. I was in New York City. I had just done Tamron Hall. We had just done People Magazine. I did an interview on HLN, and this reporter, her name's Kirsten Fleming, she called and said, "Can I interview you?" And I was so tired. It was already 8 o'clock at
Oh,
night. I was beat, but something told me, just do it. I said, I'll do it, but can you come to my hotel? And can I be in my bathrobe? Can I have my slippers on? Like I was just that tired because I had just started treatment. And long story short, she came to the hotel. She brought a photographer, super cool guy. And we were just talking. She is one of the best interviews that I've ever had. Like
wow.
she told my story how it was meant to be shared. Um,
Wow.
and it was such a beautiful experience. In fact, it was so amazing that she said, "Would you like to go take photos? Like, have you rode the subway yet?" And I hadn't rode the subway in New York City. It was actually
Oh,
on Live It list. And so she's like, would you like to do that? And I was like, you know what? Yes. So there I am getting dressed to go back out to get on the
Right.
subway with my husband. And he's very protective. Are you sure you want to do this? Are you okay? Do you feel good? But it was such an extraordinary experience. And she made my trip everything. Like Tamron Hall, she was amazing too. But Kirsten Fleming was, and I still stay in touch with her.
Wow. That is amazing. I'm so excited for you. Just even you just experience so much is just I don't it's just it makes me feel good. It
There,
does.
it's so important to be like when those moments were happening, I promised
Mm,
myself that I would be in the moment, like I would be present.
yeah.
So it was, when you know this because you're a podcast host, you have sometimes like people are really shy, right? They don't want to talk, they don't know what to
Yeah.
say. And when this woman came into the hotel room, straight New Yorker too, I just loved her. Like I can't even I could keep going on about her for days, but it was the first time I didn't feel sick. And I didn't
Oh,
talk about my death. I talked about my live it list. All the
yeah.
things I wanted to live for and do, and like the narrative changed. And that I believe helped catapult me to where I am today. Like it changed everything for me. I don't even know if she knows what an impact I don't think she'll ever know to the fullest extent of what she did for me, but she was a game changer for
Wow.
me.
That is amazing. So, if you could give one piece of advice to your younger self or anyone who feels discouraged, what would it be?
Mm. I would have to say, even when you're afraid, do it anyway.
Mm,
Like no
yeah,
regrets. You get one life, you don't get a redo, so you got to make it count.
that's
So the
true.
things you're afraid of, you got to do it anyway. Like getting on the airplane to fly to New York to go do Tamron Hall show, I was calculating the minutes of how long it
Wow.
was going to take to get off that airplane. I had a true fear of flying. I asked my husband,
Oh,
"Can we drive
wow.
to New York?" And he was like, "We are not driving to New York from Las Vegas, Nevada. If you want to do this and you want your story out there, get on the airplane." And it was, so when you're afraid, you still got to do it.
Yes,
You
I
still got to do
agree.
it. And even if you're given bad news, you don't have to hang on to the bad news. You can still find the good in anything if you look for it.
Yes, that is so true. Very true. What are your next goals or projects that you are excited about, and how can others support and get involved with your mission?
Um, well, my next big thing is I'm going to be going on tour next year. I've written a lot of books. So I'm doing Inspire Her Tour. I'm very excited about that because I get to meet women from all over. And so I love doing that kind of stuff. Like when you meet women for the first time, like you can just tell like they're your people. You just know,
Yeah,
you
you
know.
do.
So I'm excited about that. We have Empower Her Content Day coming up in Vegas in February. And then I have some missions trips planned. I want to go explore, learn some more about different cultures and try different foods and I just want to live. I want to I'm going
Yeah.
to write a book with my grandsons.
Aw.
So and just my husband and we stopped buying each other like gifts and instead we buy each other vacations. So
Ooh,
I just want to travel and, live my life, be happy and do the best I can.
that is amazing. So, how can someone listen to your podcast and even purchase your books and even follow you for so much more that you are going to show us to be inspired?
Well, our podcast is She Raises Studios podcast. It's on all the major podcast platforms. The easiest way to find me is just Google my name, Hanna, Hanna Olivas, or She Raises Studios. You'll see all the books. You'll see all the interviews. It's all out there.
Yeah,
The secret's out. I manage my own social media. I'm very hands-on. I don't manage She Rises social media or FENIX TV because I think I would mess it up. But I definitely interact on my own. I'm a real person. So I have women and men who reach out and I answer. I don't have a gatekeeper. I'm just Hanna. So yeah.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Hanna. I really enjoyed you on my podcast show, and I pray that my listeners have learned a lot just for so much that you have shared about just living life and the power of the tongue as well.
Well, thank you for having me. I was really looking forward to this. I listened to some other ones and started following you, and I was like, wow, she's really cool. This is going to be great. It's really, I love meeting new people and it's an honor for me to share my story with you. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Life Her Podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and please like, share, comment, and you can enjoy so much more on all Life Her Podcast social media platforms. Thank you. Have a good night.
Welcome to Life Her Podcast, the podcast that guides you from the 9-to-5 grind to the freedom of your own path. Discover how to conquer life's challenges while pursuing your passions with unwavering faith. Because being an entrepreneur is not easy. So let's get to it.